Celia was 17, and from the moment she was born, people whispered that she had stolen beauty from the sun and the moon. She was tall for her age, her skin smooth like river polished stone, her hair thick and dark, and her eyes deep enough to drown in. When she laughed, which was not often, the sound floated through the air like the ringing of tiny bells. Women say she was destined for greatness. Men say she was made to break hearts. Children stared at her in open wonder as though she were a living fairy tale. But beauty alone was never enough to make a person beloved. Celia had something else that shadowed her light. She was proud. She had learned early that her looks drew eyes, and instead of softening under their admiration, she grew sharper. She walked as if the earth owed her thanks for every step. When others bent slightly to greet her, she tilted her chin higher. When elders called out to her with one voices, she gave them silence. She was known for her refusal to greet anyone, no matter who they were. On mornings when the paths were full of people hurrying to farms or markets, voices would rise. "Good morning, Celia. Peace follow you, Celia." But Celia never answered. She walked on, her sandals making steady taps against the earth, her bracelet catching the sunlight. She acted as if the greeting were no more than the rustle of leaves or the cry of a distant bird. At first, people laughed it off. "Ah, she's young," they said. "The pride is a disease of the young." But as weeks became months, their laughter turned to frowns, and their frowns hardened in a quiet bitterness. "She thinks her beauty is greater than respect," one woman muttered as Celia passed by without a word. "What good is a fine face with a mouth that stayed closed?" rumbled an elder. "Pride will finish her," another said, shaking his head. Her mother, Navin, tried to correct her gently. She often sat Celia on a stool in the evening, combing her daughter's hair while the night insects began their songs. "My child," she said softly, "a greeting is lighter than a feather, but it can carry you through the heaviest door. When you greet people, you do not lose anything, you gain respect." But Celia only sniffed, watching her reflection in the pot of water. "Mother, everyone already knows me. Must I waste my breath repeating what they already know?" Her father, Barak, was not as patient. He was a man who believed respect held the world together like strings hold beads. One evening, while reading by the fading light, he said without looking up, "The daughter of a leader should be the first to greet. Others learn from you. If you walk without manners, you will raise a trail of rudeness behind you." Celia was adjusting the silver ring on her finger and answered without shame, "People follow me because I'm Celia. They will do what they wish whether I greet or not." Barak lowered his screw, staring at her. For a moment, he looked like he wanted to strike her with his words, but instead he sighed and let silence hold the rest. But silence did not protect Celia. The people were watching. At the market, women carrying baskets moved aside to let her pass. She walked through without so much as a nod. A girl selling roasted yams waved a seeming peace her way. Celia turned her head and continued on. Children ran up to her shouting greetings with their thin voices, and she brushed past them like dry grasses on her path. On festival days when drums filled the air and dancers spun in circles, Celia stood aside, arms crossed, lips curved in a half smile that looked more like scorn than joy. While others clapped to honor the drummer, she simply watched as though she were above their noise. Slowly, the villagers grew tired. They stopped calling her name. They stopped trying to draw her smile. And in the corners of their conversation, whispers bloomed like mold. "Her beauty is wasted. She will bring misfortune. Even the spirit despises arrogance." Celia heard these whispers, but she told herself they were only jealous tongues. She believed her beauty was protection, her pride, her shield. Until the nights that changed everything. The moon hung high, bright enough to turn the world silver. Celia walked to the riverbank carrying a small pot to fetch water. She liked the night because it was the only time the world seemed quiet enough for her to hear her own thoughts. The crickets sang, frog croaked in the reeds, and the surface of the river glistened with moonlight. She knelt, gazing at her reflection in the water. The river's face showed her perfection, the curve of her cheeks, the smoothness of her brows, the shine of her lips. She smiled at herself and whispered, "They can gossip as they like. Nothing can touch this beauty." But as the word left her mouth, the water rippled though no wind blew. The ripples deepened, circling wider, and then the surface broke open. From the water rose a figure clothed in wings and dripping jewels of river light. Her eyes glowed like embers, her hair flowed like liquid silver, and her voice thundered though it was no louder than a whisper. She was the spirit of the river, keeper of humility, judge of pride. "Celia," the spirit said, her voice echoing as though the whole night had spoken. "You wear beauty like a crown, but your heart is empty. You honor no one, not the old, not the young. You pass greeting as though they are death under your feet. Do you think you are greater than the rest? Celia froze, but then raised her chin, her pride unbroken. I am not like the others. Why should I bow with greetings when all eyes already seek me out? Let them greet me if they wish. It's their place, not mine. The river spirit's eye blazed red. The water around her frothed and churned. Then you have chosen arrogance over grace. You have chosen pride over kindness. Hear me, Celia. From this night forth, your beauty will be stripped from you. Your face will twist, your skin will wither, and though the years may pass, you will not die. You will walk this earth ageless and despised until one soul loves you enough to humble your pride. Celia's mouth opened, but no words came. The spirit raised her hand, and a surge of cold air wrapped around the girl. Celia felt her skin burn, then sag. Her bone ached, her cheeks shivered, her eyes dulled. She cried out, clutching her face, but the spirit had already sunk back into the river, leaving only the rippled water and the echo of her curse. Stumbling on her feet, Celia rushed home. She burst into her family hut, her heart hammering. Her mother Navin gasped and dropped the clay bowl she was carrying. Celia, what has happened to you? Her father rose on his feet, eyes wide with horror. Celia grabbed her mother's hand. It is me. I am still your daughter. But Navin pulled back, trembling. Celia's once smooth face was now twisted, her beauty erased. The girl who had been the envy of all was now unrecognizable. Word spread quickly by morning. Everyone knew. Children screamed and hid when she walked past. Women whispered behind their hands. Men crossed the path to avoid her. The same people who had once stared at her with longing now looked away in disgust. Celia wandered the path, begging the spirit to return, begging for forgiveness. But the river remained silent, and her reflection showed only the cursed face of a girl who had thought herself untouchable. That night, she lay awake, staring into the darkness. For the first time in her life, she understood loneliness. For the first time, she wished she had answered every greeting, every kind word. But it was too late. Her course had begun. The season turned and turned again until Celia no longer counted them. The same sun that once kissed her youthful skin now beat down on her wrinkled, twisted face. Yes, no true wrinkle of age touched her. Only the cause's ugliness, frozen into her features. She did not grow old, she did not wither, she simply remained ugly, unloved, unchanged. At first, the people around her whispered quietly. They said it was punishment. They said no woman whose scorned kindness could escape a spirit's judgment. But whispers soon turned into warning, and the warning grew into stories. Mothers told their children not to look into Celia's eyes, lest the same fate befall them. Fathers pointed at her from afar when their son grew proud and forgot their manners. See her, that is what becomes of pride. The centuries moved like shadows. Celia counted not by years but by the faces of children who became parents, then grandparents, and then returned to the dust. She saw friends of her youth return to the earth one by one, but she remained. She walked among their grandchildren's children like a ghost, recognized yet never embraced. At times she thought of ending her life, but the cost would not allow it. When she once tried to drink poison, it only made her sick but did not kill her. When she tried to wade deep into the river, the water pushed her back like hands. Even the earth itself rejected her release. So she lived, not by choice, but by force. She wandered farther now, sometimes leaving the place she once called home. She followed roads that stretched into new lands, past towns with walls of stone, past markets larger than any she had seen before. But no matter how far she went, her face went with her and rejection followed. One evening, when the air was soft and the lamps glowed warmly in the streets, Celia stood near the edge of a gathering. People danced, sang, and clapped to music that mixed old drums with new strings. Her heart ached as always. She turned to leave, to vanish into her solitude again. But at that very moment, a pair of eyes followed her from across the crowd. Eyes that did not hold fear or disgust, but something else, something that felt almost impossible. Celia did not know it yet, but the centuries of waiting were finally bending towards a new story. Celia had forgotten how it felt to be noticed. For centuries, she had been the shadow on the edge of gatherings, the silence behind laughter, the face everyone turned from. But that night, under the glow of lamps and the throb of drums, someone saw her. It was a young man named Arin. His name meant nothing to her at first. It was just a sound carried in the wind, but his eyes stayed. They did not skitter away like startled birds. They did not harden with judgment. Instead, they softened as though he had been waiting for her all along. Celia felt it at once, a shift in the air, a prickle on her skin. She tried to leave, tried to fold herself back into the comfort of shadows, but Arin followed. He was taller than most, with hair the color of night and a smile that seemed to carry its own warmth. "Why do you stand apart?" he asked gently. His voice startled her. She had not been spoken to kindly in so long that her throat forgot how to answer. She pulled her rag shawl tight around her and whispered, "Because it is where I belong." Irene tilted his head. "Who told you that?" She lowered her gaze. "Everyone." "Not me," Irene said, and with that he offered his hands. Celia recoiled at first. Her fingers were thin, her skin rough. No one had reached for her in longer than she could remember. Yet Irene's hand remained steady. For the first time in centuries, she felt alive. She stepped into the circle of dancers. Some people gasped, others muttered, but Irene's hand anchored her. She did not stumble away. They danced. When the music ended, she pulled back, frightened by her own daring. "You should not," she whispered. "They will mock you for touching me." "Let them," Irene said, and his smile did not fade. Days turned into weeks. Irene returned again and again. Sometimes they brought her food, warm bread, roasted fish, sweet fruit. Sometimes he brought her stories of the world beyond, of lands where the rivers curved like silver snakes and markets stretched farther than any eye could see. And sometimes he simply brought silence, sitting beside her as if her company was enough. Celia's heart ached with confusion. How could anyone see beauty in her? She had long accepted that her face was a cage, her body a prison built by a spirit court. Yes, Irene's gaze never faltered. One quiet evening, beneath the glow of 1,000 fireflies, Celia told him everything. The cause, the centuries, the spirit's warning, her unending loneliness. When she finished, she looked away, ashamed. She expected him to laugh or retreat, but Irene did neither. He lifted her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Then let me be your end and your beginning," he said, and before Celia could answer, he kissed her. After the kiss, warm golden light started pouring from her skin as if the very years were unraveling. Celia gasped as her body trembled. Her hands, once thin and twisted, became soft. Her skin glowed, her hair thickened into silken waves. She felt her face change. For the first time in hundreds of years, the reflection in her mind's mirror was not the corset's mask, but her true self, beautiful, radiant, alive. Irene pulled back just slightly, his eyes wide, but not with shock, with wonder. "I told you," he whispered. "I saw you even before this." And then the spirit appeared. She rose from the shadows like mist, her form tall and glowing, her eyes sharp. The people nearby scattered in fear, but Celia stood firm, Irene's hand in hers. The spirit's voice was deep, echoing, "So it is done. Love has broken what's pride bound." Celia fell on her knees. "Forgive me," she begged. "I have lived so long in shame. I have learned. I will never forget." For a moment, everywhere was quiet. Then the spirit lifted her hand, and the air grew soft. "Your punishment is ended. From this day you live as others live. You will grow, you will age, you will die. You will know happiness as well as sorrow, love as well as loss. That is the gift of being human." And with that, the spirit vanished into the night, leaving only the faint scent of flowers behind. From that day, her beauty returned. She married Irene and they had children. Celia lived long, not cursed, but blessed. And when her final day came, she closed her eyes with peace, knowing she had truly been alive. For the curse had not only stolen her beauty, it had given her wisdom, and in the end, that was the greater gift.